The Cincinnati Bengals came away with the 17-16 victory over the Cleveland Browns in Week 1. So we wanted to dive in a little bit more to some of the stats and the PFF grades out there from Week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. There's a lot of people out there that are complaining about this Bengals win today, and honestly, I think you should take the win. I think you should be happy about it at the end of the day. So help me out. Celebrate this Bengals win. Get down there and like today's video for me if you guys are happy that the Bengals won in Week 1, something that they do not always do in September. They ended up getting a win. Was it pretty? No, not necessarily, but they got the win. They are 1-0, so get down there and like today's video. Look, I think the biggest takeaway for me from this game is, look, if the Browns have anything, it is a good defense. Take the win. You know, is anybody actually worried that the offense is actually bad? I don't really think so. Stop complaining because you only beat the Browns 17-16 in this game. Look, guys, this is the NFL. Any team can win on any given Sunday. I keep seeing all these comments of people complaining that you go out there and you got to win, but it wasn't good enough for you. Look, this isn't college football, folks. It does not matter what the final score is to these ball games. There is no eye test. There is no committee out there saying, oh, this team is going to be in the playoffs because they look better or not. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters at the end of the day is the final score of the ball game. Did you win or did you lose? Just be happy that the Bengals went out there and got the win in Week 1 today. Yes, you have got you got some help from that missed field goal and that extra point. Just take it. Let's move on to Week 2 against the Jags, and hopefully they can go out there and they can correct some of those mistakes during practice this week. So like I said, there was a lot of people during our instant reaction video that were, pissed off about how the Bengals played, and it just absolutely blows my mind that a lot of people are mad about that. So I want to hear from you guys down at the pinned comment of today's video. Are you happy about this win, or are you mad about this win? Let me know what you guys think. Type Y for yes or N for no down at the pinned comment of today's video. I think a lot of people should be happy that you go out there and you actually get a win in Week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. All right, I want to take a look at some of the early PFF stats here as well. The linebackers, if there's one real negative thing I thought about the Bengals defense today, was the linebackers did struggle a little bit in coverage today, and that was something that we kind of talked about during the preseason, during our build-up for that live watch party as well. Look, Logan Wilson and Demetrius Knight didn't necessarily have the best games in pass coverage. Both of these guys did have, a pass breakup, each, and I believe that Demetrius Knight one came in a pretty big moment during the game as well. So, yeah, that's a positive thing too, but these guys have got to get a little bit better when it comes to helping out in pass coverage. You look at some of the Browns' receiving stats in this ball game today. Not necessarily all these guys are, totally on those linebackers, but, the running backs, some of those tight ends are position groups where, a lot of times the linebackers are in charge of covering those guys. I thought Dylan Sampson, he went off in this game, especially in the receiving stats here. He had 8 catches in this game, averaged over 8 yards per catch. Harold Fannin Jr. also averaged 9 yards per catch in this ball game. David Njoku averaged 12 yards per catch in this ball game today. You've got to get a little bit better. You got to get more help from those linebackers, because your secondary is not necessarily going to be the strong point of this defense. We'll talk about the defensive line here in just a second as well, but those linebackers have got to help you out here in the next couple of weeks to, come throughout this NFL season because, when those guys go out there and they have, almost 200 yards in total, not quite 200 yards, maybe 150 yards there in total from just those 3 guys, you got to help out some of those secondary players as well. We'll continue here in just a second, but first want to give a shout out to our friends over at Omaha Steaks. From handcrafted steaks to delicious fall favorites, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. Enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, cozy and convenient comfort meals, plus tailgating favorites like chicken wings, smash burgers, and big deli-style franks. And now, during the Red Hot sales event, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com, plus our listeners here at Bengals Breakdown get an extra $35 off when you use promo code Bengals at checkout. Every steak is perfectly aged to maximize tenderness and hand-cut by master butchers in America's heartland. They have grass-fed, grain-finished beef, has more marbling for exceptional flavor, and is the choice of steakhouses and professional chefs from around the world. So get fired up for fall grilling with Omaha Steaks. Just visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during the Red Hot sales event. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code Bengals at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com, and also get an extra $35 off just by using promo code Bengals at checkout. That link will be down in the comment section of today's show. It'll also be down at the pinned comment of today's show as well. One more time for you guys, omahasteaks.com, 50% off site-wide during the Red Hot sales event, and also use promo code Bengals to get $35 extra off for your checkout today. You can also get down there and see that website for extra details. All right, one thing about this Bengals defense today, I was actually really impressed with that defensive line, a position group that I know a lot of Bengals fans and myself were also very worried about going into the season. But Trey Hendrickson and Shemar Stewart both played really well. They both had a combined 10 pressures in this game. Also talk about B.J. Hill at the interior of that defensive line. He had 6 pressures by himself. I keep seeing a lot of people complain about the amount of passing yards that the Bengals end up giving up in this game to Joe Flacco. He threw for 278 yards. Well, look, the Browns threw the ball 45 times in this game. Joe Flacco was also, just taking a lot of checkdowns in this game, doing what the defense was giving him. He was just dinking and dunking all the way down the field all game long. His average depth of target was only 5.6 yards per attempt. That means the Bengals secondary was actually doing a pretty decent job in this game, when it comes to not letting, these big plays happen. And the defensive line, they did a really, really good job of bottling up the Browns' run game as well. You remember back to that last preseason game, or that preseason game against the Commanders. They went right down the field and they scored on you. They had, 75 yards of rushing yards on the first couple of drives. It was like 150 rushing yards in the first 2 possessions of the game. Well, in this game, the Bengals actually did a very, very good job of bottling up the run. Dylan Sampson only had 29 yards on the ground in this game, only averaged 2.4 yards per carry. Jerome Ford only had 8 yards in this game, 1.3 yards per carry. Raheem Sanders, he averaged only 1 yard per carry in this game. Yes, he did have a touchdown, but look, the Bengals did not give up a single rush over 5 yards in this ballgame today. I think that's something that a lot of fans could be really proud of, be really excited about, that the defensive line actually went out there and they played some really good ball today, especially those guys on the interior of that defensive line as well. So I think we need to give some credit to where credit is due. I thought the defensive line played really, really well today. So I want you guys to get down in the comment section and grade the Bengals defensive line performance against the Browns, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know how you guys feel. I thought they played really well. I think you should give it at least a B in this one. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section of today's video. I also thought the Bengals offensive line played pretty well today. Maybe not really good, but I thought they played pretty well in this ball game today. They gave up 3 sacks. 2 of those were to Myles Garrett. At the end of the day, I think that's fine. There's a reason that he is the 3rd highest paid edge rusher in the National Football League. And that's only because Micah Parsons just got paid, last week, the week before that, something like that. He was the 2nd highest paid defensive end before that. He's going to get his. He is going to get his sacks. But for the most part, I thought they pretty much kept him in check. Early on, they were opening up some really nice holes in the run game, especially on that first drive. You saw Chase Brown was, hitting the holes. He was playing really well. And, maybe towards the end of the game and as the game went on, some of that kind of, stopped a little bit. Maybe the Browns defensive line was doing a little bit better on that job. But look, overall, I don't really think anybody could really complain about how the offensive line played, especially when Dalton Risner, a guy that everybody was very concerned about, he played pretty well there in the first quarter. And then he goes out and then you end up putting in, Lucas Patrick, and he got hurt. And then you end up putting Dalton Risner into the game. And I thought he played pretty decent as well. Are there things that the Bengals can work on? Absolutely, yes. Did the Bengals get some help in this ball game today against the Browns? Absolutely, yes. But your defense only gave up 16 points at the end of the day. They got critical turnovers when they needed them, and they ended up winning the ball game. Just be happy about that, because in years past, it's been a struggle to go down to Cleveland and win. It's been a struggle just in general to win in the month of September. So I think more people need to be thankful that you are actually 1-0 here in week 1, and we can just focus on going 1-0 against the Jags next week in week 2 as well. It's just going to be a continuous thing. This isn't the final product for this team. They're going to get better, I think. And I think the Bengals, overall, they ended up getting the win in this game. And I think a lot of people should be a little bit more happy about that. I think, I see way too much negativity from a lot of, people in the Bengals fan base right now. Maybe that's just that, vocal minority, but I think a lot of people need to be happy that the Bengals went out there in week 1 and they ended up getting the job done, something that they haven't really been able to do in years past. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to Bengals Breakdown. We'll continue to put out more videos for you guys as the week goes on. We'll also be live for every single Bengals game of the season. So get down there, hit that sub button, and stay up to date on all things Bengals news. That's youtube.com/@BengalsTV.